Welcome back, Giants fans. So today we're going to talk about positional needs for the Giants this offseason. Of course, if you've watched the Giants the past couple of years, you know there's a lot of positional needs on this team. We'll go down each position list, starting at quarterback, ending at safety. I'll give my thoughts about the depth and the players at that position. Should the Giants look to upgrade, or are they good? But for the most part, they probably should look to upgrade most positions. So I'm sure you guys know that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get into it. So we'll start at quarterback, which is going to be a controversial one right off the top here. But Daniel Jones, then you have Jake Fromm, Mike Glennon. I don't really expect to have Jake Fromm or Mike Glennon next year. Daniel Jones, if I had to guess right now, is probably back next year, but it also would not shock me if the Giants fell in love with some draft prospect this year or wanted to trade for a big-name quarterback. I don't know. It's a new GM. Anything could happen. This is not a Daniel Jones guy, Joe Schoen, and it's not a Daniel Jones coach and Brian Daboll. But they both so far have had full support of Daniel Jones, but people in that position lie. Coaches, GMs, they do lie, and it is what it is. It's part of the business. But just gut feeling right now, I would guess Daniel Jones is a starter next year. Now, can the Giants look to upgrade at quarterback? Absolutely. I mean, Daniel Jones has not shown us that he's a top half starter in the NFL, and if you don't have that, you can always do better. Now, we're hoping as Giants fans that Jones, with a better team around him and a better play caller, will be able to be a top half quarterback in the league, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. So the Giants could look to upgrade, but if I had to guess right now, they're probably going to stay put, play out his fourth year of the contract, and see what happens this next season. So quarterback, not the biggest need, but they could address it if they really wanted to. For running back, always an interesting one, of course. Now, Joe Schoen has said he's a believer in positional value. People that believe in positional value believe that the running back position is very reliant on other pieces like the offensive line, the play caller, the quarterback, and all those type of things. So Would a GM like Joe Schoen want to pay Saquon Barkley a ton of money, which I think is $7.2 million next year? Maybe not, and that's why I said in my last video for the Giants, I can see a world where they trade Saquon Barkley this offseason. It won't be for nothing. They won't trade him for like a 6th-round pick, but if they got a decent offer, a second or even a third, they might pull the trigger. So the running back position, I wouldn't say it's a giant need right now, no pun intended, but it's not a big need for the Giants right now. But if they did trade Saquon Barkley, you're going to need somebody, of course, to come in there because you can't have Devontae Booker be your featured back, lead back for an entire season. That's not an ideal scenario. Devontae Booker's a guy who could be cut. The Giants can save about $2-3 million if he were. He's going to be 30 years old next year, so that's always possible. They have Gary Brightwell and that kid they signed from Buffalo, but, those are not really, guys that you're going to rely on to be your featured backs next year. So if they do keep Saquon Barkley, they're pretty set. Now, they may have to move on from Devontae Booker, so the backup running back position may be something they look to fill in. I would like to have more of a receiving back, a third down back. I mean, Saquon had some drops last year, and it was pretty disappointing. So if they can get themselves like their own version of James White or something for the Giants, I'd be pretty satisfied with that. But, right now, I don't know what's going to happen with Barkley and Booker, but I guess running back is not a major need unless Saquon Barkley were to be traded. For wide receiver, the only free agents we have is like Dante Pettis. Now, Sterling Shepard is a prime candidate to get cut this offseason. We know that. It should be post June 1st to save some more money. But right now, you still have Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, and you have Darius Slayton, assuming that he stays on the team next year. So yeah, you can argue the Giants need a wide receiver 3 because, people asked about Kenny Golladay last video. You really can't cut the guy. It would cost the Giants a lot to cut him. I don't think it wouldn't even make sense to cut Kenny Golladay right now. Nobody's going to trade for him. Nobody wants that contract. So Kenny Golladay is going to be a Giant next year regardless. So you got to live with that. For Kadarius Toney, of course, health is the main thing, but he's on a rookie contract. He'll be here next year. I mean, there's been some people talking about Kadarius Toney getting traded, which I think is nonsense. But Tony's going to be here next year. Just hope he stays healthy. Then you have Darius Slayton, who had, I would say, another pretty disappointing year. I mean, he had a great rookie year, of course, but 2021 was kind of a year to forget for Slayton. Battled some more injuries, had some more drops, and, has really a lot of trouble fighting through contact and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's a concern, but the Giants could look to upgrade their wide receiver 3 spot. You look at Kadarius Toney, who I think is more of your prototypical slot guy. You have, Kenny Golladay, your X receiver. So if you can find yourself like a wide receiver on the outside, the Giants can definitely find that. I wouldn't say spend the 1st-round pick on a wide receiver. I would not go that route, but if they want to sign a cheap one in free agency, find one in the middle of the draft, then hey, go ahead. I mean, the Bills once found Gabriel Davis, who's a great wide receiver, a really good wide receiver too now for Buffalo. So if the Giants can find a guy like that, that'd be great, of course. But As for your top two guys with Golladay and Toney, you're pretty set for next year, I must say. Next, we have the tight end position. This actually could be a pretty big one for the Giants because Evan Engram's a free agent. I don't know if he's coming back. I would assume Engram earns like a multi-year deal for about maybe $6-7 million per year. So we're looking at maybe a 3-year, $21 million type contract for him. We'll find out what he gets, but Evan Engram's Giants career may be over. We'll find out, of course. We know Joe Judge was a big fan of Evan Engram, but Joe Judge is gone, so that doesn't matter as much. They have Kyle Rudolph, who's definitely going to be cut, in my opinion. Kayden Smith has 1 year left on his deal. Levine Toilolo is a free agent. Now, if they cut Kayden Smith, they can save $2.5 million. So that's always possible. So there's a scenario where the Giants get rid of every single tight end on this roster right now, and they go in just in the offseason looking for 3 new ones. That's a very real possibility. So tight end is definitely a major need for this football team. I don't see them going out and spending a ton of money on a tight end this year, but you never know. The Giants don't have that much to spend, but I don't know about the draft, what type of tight end prospects are out there, but I do imagine the Giants will have to have at least 2 new tight ends on this roster next year because a lot of these guys may not be back. So right now, looking at it, it's probably a major need. Now, for offensive linemen, we know that outside of left tackle, the Giants need everything. I mean, Will Hernandez is a free agent. We have Nate Solder, who's a free agent, probably going to retire, I would imagine, and Billy Price as well. There's a couple other guys, Kyle Murphy and the Corey Cunningham guy. So there's a couple other free agents in there. But as for starters, the Giants are kind of limited here at their offensive line position. So Andrew Thomas is back next year. Just got to stay healthy. We know that. Matt Parrott tore his ACL. That's another guy who may not be ready for week 1 next year, and it's not like Matt Parrott proved much in this league anyway, so that's another problem. Matt Skura's there. I mean, not really a guy you're going to rely on too much. The center position, Nick Gates, I mean, a guy who's coming off 6 leg surgeries. I mean, it's not really an ideal situation there. You can't, rely on him to return to full form right away, but I would not bet against him. Ben Bredesen's still there. He didn't really, he was okay last year. He wasn't great. And then you have, Nate Solder is going to be gone at right tackle. Matt Parrott's not going to be ready. Corey Cunningham, who's not, he's not under contract. So the Giants absolutely need a right tackle next year. In my opinion, absolutely need a right guard as well. Center's iffy. Depends how Nick Gates looks. And then left guard, I think, is a major need as well. So the Giants need a left guard, right tackle. And for me, a person that believes tackles are more important, I would rather have the Giants put more of their resources into the right tackle position because if you have 2 great tackles, most of the time your pass protection will hold up pretty well. So, I do hope the Giants find the guy opposite of Andrew Thomas, a young guy, preferably in the draft, that can be next to Andrew, or, opposite of Andrew Thomas for the next decade or so. That'd be a great scenario for us Giants fans. But for the interior, it depends on Nick Gates' health. I don't see Will Hernandez coming back. I guess it could happen, but it doesn't seem likely. And guys like Matt Skura, Shane Lemieux, Ben Bredesen, I can't rely on those guys. The Giants have to look to upgrade, and there's about 3 spots on this offensive line, 4 really, that can need improvement. Now for the defense, we'll start with the defensive line. We have Dexter Lawrence. Austin Johnson's going to be a free agent. Danny Shelton's a free agent. Leonard Williams. You have guys like Raymond Johnson, David Moa. Not really guys I'm too worried about right now. But as for Leonard Williams, he's back here next year 100% because of the contract. Dexter Lawrence is going to play out year, 4 now for him? Wow, 19, 20, 21. Yeah, year 4 for Dexter Lawrence already. Wow, so he's going to have another year left on his contract. Now, as for Austin Johnson, do you re-sign him? I would be fine with it. I can see the Giants doing that. I'd be okay with that personally. Danny Shelton had nothing left. I would move on from him. He just looked out of shape the entire year, honestly. So Austin Johnson's a maybe. So the Giants might need a nose tackle next year. We'll find out about that. But as for their defensive ends, which is going to be Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, they have those guys. You're going to need backups, of course, so the Giants can use some backups behind those guys. But nose tackle and defensive end depth is probably a need right there for the Giants defensive line. Now, as for the outside linebacker position, the Giants, of course, don't have that number 1 edge rusher that they need. They're hoping that a guy like Azeez Ojulari can turn into that, but that's going to take some projecting, of course, and it's going to take time to see it. So right now, they have Lorenzo Carter, who's going to be a free agent. That's a big controversial topic. Should the Giants re-sign him or not? They have Quincy Roche, Cam Brown, Azeez Ojulari, O'Shane Zimenez, who might get cut this year, and Ellerson Smith, who was basically, I think, put on IR in January for a neck injury, so hopefully he's fine, but he should be okay for next year. But they're really, going forward, you're going to have Azeez Ojulari. We know that. I would imagine Quincy Roche is going to be back next year. Cam Brown has earned that title of special teams specialist on this team, so he should be back as well. Now, Lorenzo Carter is an interesting one. Personally, I would rather bring him back. I'm kind of concerned that he finally got back to full strength towards the end of last year and started playing very well. But it also could be one of those things where Lorenzo Carter just had a good month, and now, he might not play that well ever again. So I don't know. I don't want to make a long-term investment into Lorenzo Carter, but if we can get him for another 1 year and give him like $5-6 million, I'd be down for that. So hopefully the Giants can get him back for at least one more year. But outside of that, they got to find their number one guy. I mean, we're talking about guys like Kayvon Thibodeaux in the draft. I mean, I'm a fan of his, so I would definitely be okay with that. But the Giants have to find a way to get that alpha, that guy that draws double teams and drives offensive coordinators crazy because they have to game plan for that one guy specifically. The Giants don't have that. The Giants have to find themselves that dominant edge rusher, and if they find it at pick 5, pick 7, maybe free agency, I have no idea. But if they can find that guy, that would be great. I think the Giants need that, but as for a guy like for Lorenzo Carter, I want to see him back, not long term, just give him a 1-year deal and see what happens there. But you're just hoping that the main thing we hope for, of course, is that Azeez Ojulari takes a big step next year. He showed flashes, but he was inconsistent. So if we can get a consistent, really good season out of Azeez Ojulari in year 2, that would go a long way for the Giants' edge rushing group. Next, we have the inside linebacker position, and I would argue this is actually a pretty big need for the Giants. Now, as I said, there's a world where Blake Martinez is cut. They can save $8.5 million, I believe, if he were cut. So that, of course, can help a team that does not have much cap space right now. You have free agents this year: Reggie Ragland, Bradberry, McKinney, Jalen Smith. The guys under rookie contracts still are Tay Crowder and TJ Brunson. I mean, guys that I think are good depth pieces. I don't think either of them will ever be like great starters. So, I mean, Tay Crowder I had some hope for, but I was a bit disappointed this year for the most part. Now, Blake Martinez coming back is the big thing. Is he back or is he not? If he's not, then the Giants absolutely need to address that inside linebacker position and find that number one guy, because having another season of Tay Crowder and some other guy next to him is not going to be a good scenario for the Giants. So they have to find their guy in the middle. Now, as for Jalen Smith, I mean, I'm fine bringing him back. I guess he showed some upside last year. It's going to be a cheap deal, I'm sure, so I do not mind it. But it also would not shock me if, with a new regime here, they don't want to bring him back. It's honestly whatever at this point. So, Bradberry McKinney, I know he was a former first-round pick, just signed a big contract. I mean, he had some decent games last year for us in half a year, but another guy who's definitely not a guarantee to be back here. So, yeah, inside linebacker is definitely a big need for the Giants, but a lot of it depends on the status of Blake Martinez and whether he's cut or whether he stays. As for the cornerback position, so James Bradberry, another cut candidate the Giants can save, I believe, $12.5 million if he were let go, which is a pretty big chunk of change, obviously. So Bradberry, though, is still a good player. You have Darius Williams, who got hurt last year. Can't count on him. Keon Crosson's going to be a free agent, the special teams guy they traded for last year. Adoree Jackson's still under contract. He's going to be here next year. Hopefully he stays healthy. Darnay Holmes is entering year 3 now, I believe. Still on the rookie contract. I would assume he's back. He could be a shocking cut. We'll find out, but I would assume he's back. And you have Aaron Robinson, who's last year's third-round rookie, who showed some promise. So for the guys that are definitely back next year, I would say Adoree Jackson's definitely back. I would assume Aaron Robinson's back. But outside of that, I don't really know. I mean, James Bradberry is a maybe. I would want to keep him because he's a good player, but I also understand the argument of, like, you save a lot of money if he's not here, so I get it from both sides. It depends how aggressive they are in cutting guys on this team. So Bradberry's a maybe. I mean, guys like Darius Williams, Keon Crosson are kind of whatever. We'll put Julian Love in there. He plays safety as well, but Julian Love, I believe, has his 4th year coming up. Yeah, Love has 1 more year left, but the Giants can also save about $2.6 million if Julian Love was cut, so you never know, of course. He's a good depth player. I don't see Love ever being like a consistent starting cornerback too. I mean, maybe he will be one day. I have no idea, but he's a good depth piece to have in the secondary. So yeah, a lot of it depends on the status of James Bradberry. If Bradberry were not on this team, you're going to look at cornerback as a need. Don Martindale, the Giants defensive coordinator, has already said he definitely prefers to spend more on his cornerbacks because he trusts his scheme to get pressure. So the Giants, I've said this before, the Giants may shockingly take a cornerback at 5 or 7. It would not shock me because of Don Martindale's defensive philosophy. So we'll see how that one plays out. Now, as for safety, Xavier McKinney, Jabril Peppers, Nate Ebner, Logan Ryan, Julian Love once again, Steven Parker. So Xavier McKinney, definitely staying. Rookie contract, year 3 next year. Jabril Peppers, I think, is probably gone. Towards ACL last year. Going to be a free agent. I don't see him coming back. Nate Ebner was a Patriots guy, Joe Judge guy. He's gone. Logan Ryan, you can't cut him this year. Logan Ryan definitely declined in play last year. That was a bit disappointing. He's more of, a vocal leader at this point, but he makes a lot of money. So I was hoping that Logan Ryan would have more of a productive season. Hopefully he bounces back next year. We'll find out with that. But Logan Ryan's going to stay. McKinney's going to stay. And that's about it. I mean, Julian Love, I would think, probably stays as well. But as for Jabril Peppers, I would think he's probably gone. So the Giants would need a strong safety to fill in there and be their guy. So it depends if they want to draft somebody or sign somebody pretty cheap in free agency. But I would assume the Giants have an opening at their starting strong safety spot. So that'll do it. I mean, I'll go down the list one more time and talk about which positions I'm confident with. Quarterback, iffy. I think Daniel Jones is back, so it's whatever. Running back depends on Saquon Barkley being back, of course. I think backup running back can be in need as well if Devontae Booker's gone. Wide receiver, you need a wide receiver 3, an outside guy preferably. Tight end, you might need 4 new ones, 3 new ones. I have no idea. Tight end's definitely a major need for this football team. I didn't go over fullback, actually. So they have Elijah Penny, who's a free agent. I believe Gillespie is a free agent as well, so they might need a new fullback, but I forgot to mention that, but that's whatever. Offensive line, left tackle you're good at. The rest of it, they probably need the other 4 spots in the offensive line. Depends on Nick Gates looks from the injury, but right tackle, left guard, right guard, definitely needs for the Giants next year. Defensive line, you might need a nose tackle if Austin Johnson walks or, if he's gone. I think you need some backup defensive ends, so that's definitely a need for this football team, assuming they stay in a 3-4. Outside linebacker, I would like to re-sign Lorenzo Carter, but we'll see how that goes. You definitely need an alpha if they get a guy at number 5 or number 7, Kayvon Thibodeau once again. I can see that one happening, so it's a bit of a need right now for the Giants. They just need, the Giants have depth at outside linebacker, but they don't have that guy. They need that guy, that number 1 guy, so hopefully they find a way to get that. Inside linebacker depends on Blake Martinez. I think the Giants have okay depth pieces, Tay Crowder and Jalen Smith, but, outside of that, they definitely need some help at inside linebacker, and if Martinez is gone, they definitely need to find a guy who's an inside linebacker number 1. Cornerback, a lot of it depends on James Bradberry. If Bradberry was back, you would still have Bradberry, Adoree Jackson, Aaron Robinson, and Darnay Holmes. That's a pretty solid group right there. But if James Bradberry's gone, you might need to find yourself a cornerback 1 or a cornerback 2 on the outside. And then safety, of course, I mean, as I mentioned, Peppers probably gone, but you still have Logan Ryan, you still have McKinney, you still have Julian Love most likely, so you have some guys there, but the Giants want to have more of a box safety they want to sign, because Logan Ryan can play in the box, of course, but I just don't view him like that. I don't know why. I guess he's more of like a smaller guy compared to Jabril Peppers and even Landon Collins back in the day, but if the Giants want to sign a strong safety, I can see that happening for sure. So it's not a major need, but they might need a guy to kind of fill in for Jabril Peppers in a way. So that's it. That'll do it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave in the comments what are the top positional needs for the Giants in your opinion, and I will talk to you guys next time.